So today I'm going to show you how to make a really simple cake for Easter. And here I've got a 6-inch cake which I've covered in buttercream, and I've iced the top and the board in chocolate sugar paste and stippled it. I'm just going to show you about stippling. And so I'm just using a piece of ordinary sugar paste. You could use chocolate flavour if you want to. Roll it out, and just to give it a little texture, I use this for soil or well, the base of soil, or for grass effects. And so it's a pot brush. It's quite stiff brush, and rather than a nail brush, which is long, and so you're going to get sort of rows of stippling, the roundness just makes a nice pattern. And so then you would have rolled this out to fit your board or the top of your cake and lift that into position. So for the sides of the cake, again, I'm using sugar paste, and I've put a little green colour in there to make a dark shade of green. And I'm putting a little bit of Trex on the board and roll out the sugar paste. Now, I'm putting this on the side of the cake in small pieces. It's easier to handle and to actually keep the stems, what's going to be the stems of the flowers, straight. So just roll out a piece. And I'm going to measure the side of the height of my cake. So your cake would be, it would have the top and the base on and the buttercream sides. And mine is about 4 inches. So if you cut this to the height of 4 inches, just mark that off like so. As I say, you're going to work in small pieces, much easier for handling. And then if you have a paintbrush handle, or I've got one of these little cell sticks, and I'm going to place that on and press quite firmly. And so that's another reason why I like to do this on the board, so you can press firmly. If you were trying to press that against the side of the cake and it's like a Victoria sponge, it's too soft to actually make nice deep indents. So quite close together, and give a good press all the way along. And because this is going to go onto a buttercream side of a cake, there's no need to use any moisture on this at all, any water on the back for sticking, anything like that. So you work your way along and then give a good press. Might not get another one there. Give it a go anyway. Right, so then I'm going to trim down, just surplus off, tidy it up. And this side's okay. Now, just slide your knife underneath, and because you're on Trex, it won't stick anyway. So turn it over. Oh, you would turn it over if you're going to wet the back, but as I say, because it's going on a buttercream cake, you don't have to. And so you would just lift and place that onto the side of your cake. Now, when it's on the side, just make sure that all the stems are nice and straight. And if you've got a Dresden tool, and I've got one here, then you can just go back and just tidy it up, or even with a ruler you can just press that so that you're just pushing the stems nice and straight. And then I've used the sharp end of my Dresden tool on the cake. I'll show you on the cake in a minute, but I've just gone down between like so to make narrower stems. So if that one's not very straight, it's easier on the cake, but if you want narrow stems on there, then obviously you do the narrow ones on the cake, because the more marks you make, the more likely it is to split when you lift it. So just do the wide ones on the board, lift it onto your cake, and then do the thin ones. I'll show you the cake side here that I've got. So you can see on here where I have gone along like this. So that's going to represent all the stems. And now I'm going to cut out the flowers to go on the top. Okay, so I'm going to show you some flowers from our spring flower set. And although you get lots of different ones in the set, I'm going to use the Daffodil, Narcissi and Hydrangea. And I'm using flower paste. So just work it to make it nice and pliable. And then put a little Trex on there. The whole point of the Trex is to keep the paste stuck down on the board. I don't want it to lift in the cutter. So roll out the paste and roll it thin, and don't lift it up and down. It's important that it sticks down. You don't want to be picking things out of the cutter. Roll it quite thin. And then take the cutter. Now this is the Daffodil, this is the Narcissi, and that's the little Hydrangea that you get in the pack, amongst others. So put Trex on the cutter and press firmly, and just round the outside edge of the main flower so that it doesn't cut in the centre. Give a little flick, and I'm going to cut out the centre of the daffodil, just this part here, and place it on top just to make it a little thicker there. Oop, get ready to catch it. So that's the main daffodil. And then just remove everything from around the trumpet. Now this line here will probably cut through, because you can put that on and then another layer of that if you wanted to. I'm going to keep it quite simple. So I'm just going to little water, and find my water brush on there. You don't need any glue or anything like that, just water will make the icing sticky, and sticky enough to hold it. So lift and pop that on top, just to give us a little bit of 3-dimension. Just move that off there, and then a small knife underneath, lift and place that onto a sponge pad. Just bring that over like so. Now if you wanted to have more shape like I've got here, then just place them into a little piece of sponge, and then that will give it a little bit more shape. It's going to stick to my finger. Okay, but I quite like them just flat. Do exactly the same with white paste for the Narcissi, and instead of cutting the extra layer out in white, I've cut it out in like an orange colour, and then I would go on to dust the daffodil. So to colour the daffodil, I'm going to first brush a little lime green. I want quite a lime green on this. So I'm going to work that colour into the brush, and just around the base of the trumpet part of the flower, just rub a little of the green. And then I'm using a gold. This is yellow gold from Edible Arts. And I'm just brushing that over the trumpet just to give that separate colour. And then on all the flowers, the little white narcissi, although I've cut out the centre there, they do have a little mark for the stamens to go in. So I'm using a fine brush and isopropyl alcohol. I'm just going to put a little of the alcohol in the lid of the brown dust colour, and then just tap that into the marked stamens in the centre of each flower. On the little blue hydrangea, I've used blue flower paste and cut lots of these out, and then put a little of the alcohol in the gold and just tap the centre of each of the little hydrangea flowers. And so that's all the colouring done. So I'm going to attach the flowers around the cake now, and what I've done, I've taken some of the green paste that I used to mark the side of the cake, that little piece that's left over, and I've added water to it. So you just literally put drop by drop of water and start to paddle it. You might even find it better to do that on your worktop, so that you can just really paddle it and make it smooth. Now you don't want it too soft, because it's going to go on the back of each flower, and if it's too soft the flower can start to slip down the cake. So I've got a little paper piping bag. That's not easy to say. And I'm just going to put a little of this. The bag's quite large, but that's okay. So right down the bottom, no piping nozzle. Just going to cut a hole in the bag. Now when you fill a piping bag, especially paper one, you fold one side over, the opposite side over, roll it down so that you're getting a nice pad to push against, and you've got full control. And when you pipe, don't squeeze from here because this unravels and you lose the pressure. So roll it down. I know a lot of you have the plastic piping bag, so that's fine if it's whatever you're used to. And I'm just going to cut the end off there, and then I'm going to begin to attach the flowers. So I'll just move the flowers to one side and bring the cake back in. So I'm going to put the daffodils on first. And I'm going to just put them so they're slightly proud of the top of the cake. Don't put them too far down. I can fill in with the narcissi. So I'm just going to place these around the side of the cake. So once the daffodils are in place, and you can put some so the trumpet's facing that way or that way, just mix them up a bit. And also I've got a few flat ones I've just filled in with. And now I'm going to put a little narcissi in between. So just here and there, and exactly the same. Just pop those on. So I'm going to attach the hydrangeas on, and it may be easier to pipe a little ball of icing where you want the flower and lift and place those into position. So I've attached all the hydrangeas. Sometimes there's two and sometimes there's one, depending on the space that I'm trying to fill in. So yeah, that's the cake ready, and I'm now going to make the little rabbit to go on top. For the rabbit, I'm going to keep the head quite nice and light. You can use a Terry's chocolate orange and have floppy ears on it, but and also there's a great Terry's chocolate orange Facebook now run by the fabulous Chell Holmes, who does all sorts of wonderful things with chocolate oranges. So if you want some more ideas, then highly recommend a visit there. But I'm going to use Rice Krispies. This is Karen Deacon's recipe, and it's 2 ounces of butter and 7 ounces of marshmallows, and you put that in a microwave until it's all melted. And then add that to 6 ounces of Krispies, and really get your hands in there. So if you want gloves on or whatever, give it a really good mix. And then you can fill whatever space you want. So I've used my half domes here, and I'll leave it to cool before you put it in your mould, and then fill your mould. And after about an hour, I would take the 2 pieces that you want. These are well dried actually, but I have one already made. But you take the 2 pieces, put them together, and then really give them a good press together. And even when they're in the mould, the whole point is really compact that down hard. If you don't do that, it will all break away. But you push the 2 halves together like so, and then give it a good squeeze, and you can cut it with a knife, you can shape it in whatever shape you want. I've also pushed them into the little heart cutter, and I've made heart ones, which I'll just finish off for Easter, but that's a nice little gift for anyone who doesn't like chocolate. I don't think there's many people that don't like chocolate, but you might get the odd one, and you can make them nice little gifts that way. So that when this, after an hour, that gap there, by squeezing it, that would be filled. But you can go over with some buttercream, and that does fill in any of the little gaps that you have on there. But it just makes a really nice light base for this is going to be, that's going to be for the head, and I've already got one here that I've given them a good squeeze together, and that part is going to be for the bunny's body. So once you've got that ready, then I'll show you how to ice them. Okay, so I'm going to cover them with sugar paste now to make the rabbit. So this is going to be the body, this is going to be the head. Just move that to one side a moment. And I'm just using some sugar paste. Just work around with that. If your paste feels very soft, you can always add a couple of pinches of Tylo powder to it and just work it in and leave it for an hour, and then it's good to go. It just firms your paste up a bit. Okay, so roll this out. Now you have the choice of either putting buttercream onto your Crispies, and that does fill in any little holes, but it can be a little bit messy, or you can spread it onto your sugar paste. So this is the top. I'm going to turn it over and put some buttercream on that side. So that would be your choice, what you want to do with that. And then pop that over, and press firmly, and then small knife just to cut round. So just cut a little way away from the crispy to begin with, because you're going to push that in. If you cut it too short, you'll see the crispies underneath. So I'm just making like a little edge to it there. So remove that. That can be all gathered up, ready for the head. Clean that away. And then I'm just going to bring my hand round. And if you want to smooth it out at all, then just take a piece of the sugar paste, and then you can use that as a little smoother. So just go around that. But I'm going to create some fur marks on there anyway, so I'm not too bothered about it being perfectly smooth. That would do. So then with a Dresden tool, let's get all this paste out of the way. Then you have the sharp end of a Dresden tool and the flattish end. So just begin to mark on some little fur lines on there. So that's quite a sharp one, and then you can switch it over, and that sort of makes a wider, if you have a look there, you can see. But you don't really see a lot of this. It's more or less just to raise the body, raise the head from the cake. You don't actually have to do this bit at all. You could just have the head in the cake, so he is literally just coming out of the soil. But just make your little marks round like so. And then you do need a support. Well, I like to use a support, so I'm going to use a cocktail stick. So if the kids are going to eat this, then just be aware that the cocktail stick is in there. The other way you can do it is to actually make an indent, moisten it, and put the head on, and hopefully it'll stay there. So I'm just going to use a cocktail stick in that, and just give it a little twist in, like so. And put that to one side, so that will go, that's going to be ready for the head. The head, I'm going to roll out a piece of paste again. So even with the buttercream on, you can work that in, and that's fine. So again, you have the choice. You can either go over any large gaps first of all with the buttercream, but it's less messy to actually buttercream the sugar paste. Now, sit that in the centre and begin to gather the paste up. So you get like, it's like a bag really, it's like a purse, isn't it? Pull it up. Just press it and then use your scissors just to cut that away. Cut a bit more from there. Because the Rice Krispie is quite solid base, you can then really give it a good roll. Just move this out of the way. And really start to smooth that around with your hand. Now, all the gather lines, they're practically gone, but you can just use that as your base. Pop it on there, make sure it's central. Don't know if that is actually. That's better. And as before, you can just use a little paste and then just start to go over and begin to smooth it out. Again, it's going to have fur lines on there, so you don't have to be too particular about this part, but just go around that. Okay. And then again with your Dresden tool, we'll just create a few lines. This is all going to be covered, so it's mainly the sides and the back that are going to have the fur lines on. Ears will be going here, so just bring the lines right. So we have the basic shape, and now I'll go on to decorating the front of the face. So I'm just going to place the little rabbit's head onto there for now, and I'm going to make the cheeks. So again, just using the same sugar paste that I've covered the Krispies with. Roll that out. I'm using a little heart cutter. And then just start to bring that out at the sides, just to widen it out a little bit for the cheeks. And then turn that over and moisten the back with water. And then I'm just going to place that onto the face, like so. And then 2 smallish pieces of paste, move that out of the way. Now, always put them next to each other to make sure that they are the same size. And then put one in the palm of your hand and press with the base of the thumb, and that will thin out around the outside edge. Like so. And we're going to moisten just to one side. Moisten around the edge and pop that one on. Again on the back, moisten around the edge and pop that one on so that they just touch in the middle. And give it a little press. Now for the mouth, take a small piece of paste and then press down with, just use the end of my knife there. You can use a ball tool or a knife handle. So I'm just hollowing that out, and then I'm going to cut, give it a pinch, I'm going to cut in half, well, yeah, in half, and then just pinch the ends up. Moisten along the cut line and pop that there. Now if you, oh, that's too much, just make it a bit smaller. It's all down to judgment on this, your own judgment. That's better. Again, moisten. A little more water. You want it sticky but not runny with too much water. Just pop that on there, little mouth. Bring that there. And then at this stage, I'm just going to dust a little colour inside the mouth. You could do this before you actually attach the mouth, but I'm just going to put mine in there now. And I've also, I have some dried little teeth. So it's literally press some of the paste out, cut a little oblong, and then cut into 2 so that you've got 2 little teeth, and leave that to dry. And if they're going to be long, you can actually cut the corners off to make it more pointed, so that will just go in easier. If you can have a look at that one. So then I'll have to turn this away for the moment, just towards me, and give a good push so the teeth go well in. I think they're a bit too long actually. I've got some more here, so always have a few spares just so that you can just have a little play around. That's better. So he's got his 2 little teeth in there. And then with the end of the Dresden tool, I'm just going to put 3 little holes either side. So sharp end, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And then with some pink paste, so it's into a ball, then into a little teardrop shape, press the top, and then moisten between the cheeks there, and then pop that on. And you could, with the pink of your brush, just put a little pink colour over the holes that you embossed on, like so. Now for the eyes, I'm going to put the eyes, it's up to you where you put them, whether you have them close together. I'm going to put mine to one side, so it's there and there. So it's just to give me an idea where I'm going to put them. So to start with, just to get the shape in, just going to start off with a ball, and then, even that's too big, small ball, little sausage shape, and press, thinning around the outside edge, and then cut in half. Just have to do it side on so I can see the half, and then moisten on here and lift and place that on there, and lift and place that one on there. So that gives me an idea where the eyes are going to go. Now we have got this part here where I haven't marked it with any fur effects, so I'm just, before that dries off, I'm just going to go back and put a little more texture on there. That's fine. Okay, and if you think it doesn't look very cute, just play around with the nose. It's always the nose that makes it look, that's better. Just a bit, needs to be a little bit shorter. Okay, so then I'm going to use blue. So I've coloured some of my flower paste blue. I'm just going to clear all this away for a minute. Again, work it so that it's nice and pliable. A little tricks on the hand always helps. So it's more or less the same, but a smaller piece. More or less the same as the white eye that I've just put on. So into a little sausage shape. Tap it out, so thinning round the outside edge. So you get a little oval shape there. Make it thin. If you have them too thick, it's going to look a bit googly-eyed, a bit sticking out. So right about there. I'm just going to remove the centerpiece. I don't want that. Bring this back in. Moisten and pop that on top. No, too big, just trim it down. You don't want it as large as the white, that's better. But don't be afraid to trim it down. Make sure that you're happy with it before you put it on permanently with water. Okay, yeah, that's fine. And so for the, rather than put black paste on now, because the eyes would be starting to protrude, I'm actually going to just paint the black part on. So I'm using one of the fractal brush pens. So it's a sort of a cross between a brush and a felt tip pen, well, a food colouring pen. So you can just paint those on. It just means that you're not having eyes really sort of popping out. And it's always easier if you just let that paste just dry off a little first, even for an hour, then you're not actually disturbing the paste underneath by doing this. Like so. And then it needs 2 tiny pieces of white. And that, what you think is a tiny piece, I would cut into 4 and remove that. You really only need the tiniest little balls. And this is for the highlights. You can paint it on, but it always looks more noticeable if you put it on in paste. So I'm just going to put those on there. Just tap it into position. And likewise with the other one. Doesn't want to play. And then I'm just going to outline that with a little ball of paste. That'll do. And then roll that into a sausage and then taper down each side. Then I'm going to moisten around the outer edge and just pop that on. Like so. And again, just sausage and then taper. Just bring it round with a damp brush. Need to get the nose higher, that's it, so it looks cute. Nobody wants a scary rabbit. Okay, so now I'm going to put eyebrows on. So just support your hand with the other one while you just draw on a couple of eyebrows. And now the ears, I'm just going to use, let's clear this away. Again, I'm going to use some of the white paste. And this part you do really need to make in advance. I'll just show you one. So a ball of paste, and taper it down. If you're not happy, if you've got creases, then take it back and roll again. I put a little bit of Trex on my hand so that it catches on there and it doesn't slip and slide. This is why I don't use corn flour, because if corn flour, it just slips and slides and it doesn't get a good grip, and so you will end up with creases. So taper that down so that you have that sort of shape. And then again, I'm going to use my little palette knife handle. You can use a paintbrush handle if you wanted to, but I do use this quite a bit. So I'm just widening that. And then just push up there, like so. And when you're happy with the length of the ear, then I'm going to brush it with the pink. Find my pink brush. So just go down the inside there. And then I'm going to moisten one side. I'm just going to curl that over. And then get a cocktail stick, dip it into water so the end's wet there. And then just insert that up there. Now, make sure that you have good contact with that. But then rather than have a pointy end here, I'm just going to go round with my stick, round with my knife, and trim that down so that it gives a nice flat base to sit on the head. And just one side that needs to curl over, and then leave them to dry. When you dry them, you can dry one ear sort of up or both ears curling over. You could have lop ears, but I'm going to stick these in here. So just give a good push down, like so, and the opposite side there. So make sure it's the stick that you're pushing in. If you haven't got tweezers, then just use your scissors to grip it and push. It goes in quite easily into the crispies. You can see that one's just starting to split the ear a little bit. But then he's ready. I've got one already made here. Just stretch over a bit. So they can then sit inside. I'll just put one in, but you could put however many in, however large your cake is. If you had an 8-inch cake, you maybe 2 or 3 inside. But I'm just going to pop this one inside the cake now. So I've sprinkled chocolate around the top of the cake and around the base, and I'm going to, that's grated chocolate, and I'm just going to make some paws. So it's, make sure that they're both the same size. That one's a little bit too big. And then into a ball, and then into a short cone. Then use your Dresden tool just to mark on a couple of little paw marks, and the other side the same. Sharp end of the Dresden tool, so press, press, like so. Just try them. That looks okay. So just square off the ends, and a little water. And I'm going to pop that one on there. I think that's a little bit too long, so I'm going to cut some off. Better. So that's better. Pop that one on there. And that one on there. And then with the thin end of the Dresden tool, just makes a few little fur marks on, and then continue adding the eggs. You could even lift the paw up and pop a little egg underneath if you wanted to, but just fill it with lots of little eggs. And the chocolate will help to keep them in place. You can sort of wiggle them into place like that. You can really pack them. Make sure I get a good contact on there. And there we have our little Easter cake.